What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel, and I have a sick, overpowered 4141 custom tactics video for you today. Now, everyone releases these tactics videos and they say, overpowered meta, overpowered meta. Well, I always put my money where my mouth is. I have everything up on stream. You can see for yourself. I have climbed to the top of eFootball with this setup or a similar setup, right? This is birthed from my 4132, and I will show you the differences and why I have switched to the 4141. Now, the 4132, if it's working for you, great. It is a great setup. It is absolutely meta. It is overpowered in its own right, but there are key differences that are helping me even more with this 4141. So, this isn't just another OP meta, and I got 6 other tactics where I say the same thing for clicks and views. This is truly the setup that I've used to climb to the very top. I'm talking the top 2% of all players. I'm beating pros. I'm outplaying top players, beating top players. I never, ever just get stomped in eFootball, which, as you know, is hard to do. Again, check every single stream. I never want you to just take my word for it. I want you to keep me honest, and I will always be honest. Make sure you are doing that with all these content creators, because there's a lot of sleazy comment that just want clicks and views. So, with that public service announcement aside, let's get into the video. Now, first things first, our manager. I go with Jose Mourinho. Now, many people know Jose for parking the bus. I know him for all of his great press conferences and being a great football manager. And in eFootball, it's not park the bus that we use Jose Mourinho for. It's his playstyle proficiency, right? He has 88 long ball counter, which is what we use in this setup. I have an out wide sub-tactic because he also has 88 proficiency in that. However, 99.9% of the time, I'm in my long ball counter setup. So, you can go with any manager you want. Just make sure they have high proficiency in long ball counter. Simple as that. This setup is not like your typical 4141, right? If you look in-game, they do have a 4141 in-game. And as you can see, it looks nothing like what we go for. Yes, it has a DMF, right? Yes, it has a left midfielder. Yes, it has 3 other midfielders. But as you see, I have 3 attacking midfielders and then a center forward. So it may seem similar, but it operates very different than what you see on screen now. So I told you long ball counter for the setup, and this is why. When you're in long ball counter, you have your defenders in a deeper line, which is great because even though I typically, historically, like pressure defenses, in eFootball, especially at the higher levels, getting players behind the ball allows you to be proactive in your defending. Instead of chasing attackers back, trying to find marks as you are doing so, or possibly being open to over-the-top through balls by your opponent, you have your defense set and you're always making the first move defensively. They're coming at you, so you can either step to them, fake like you're stepping to them, right? You can stay drop back and be patient, stay in your defensive line. You have all of the cards, right? When you're running back, as many times is the case when you're playing a higher line, like with quick counter or even possession, you are basically reeling to find your marks. You're basically reacting, right? You don't have time to think about what you want to do defensively. You're just chasing the opponent and reacting off of what they are going to do, which is going to lead to many more chances or many more goals going against you. Then when you have the ball, right, let's say you win the ball, your players take off forward making runs, which sometimes you can play them straight through, especially with those higher line teams, which is the meta, right? Many players are using quick counter. You're going to find those direct through balls with that higher line to get your players straight through. But more importantly, why I like long ball counter is because when your players are making those runs away, you can then press super cancel right after you pass the ball. You immediately press R1, R2, which is super cancel as we know, and then you take control of your player and can move them towards the ball. So it's essentially like as an attacking player checking away and then coming to, right? So you're basically dragging the defender away from where you want to receive the ball and coming to. In possession, many times the players are facing you and they're too close, right? They're just standing there with the defender right on them. It's obvious where you're going to, pass the ball, and then boom, the overpowered defense is going to click in and they're right on you. With long ball counter, since you're like running away, pulling the defenders away, once you click super cancel and come to, you gain valuable space to then receive the ball and decide what you're going to do. Maybe turn, face the defender, take them on, or find your next pass. Now, for the individual instructions, I have 2 to start, which is both defensive. One on my CDM Beckenbauer, because he's an orchestrator, and if I don't put defensive on him, he won't actually play that number 6 role, right? He will push up some as more of a deep lying playmaker. However, if you have an anchorman, you don't need to worry about this. You can, but the anchorman playstyle fits this role perfectly. You would just need to put defensive on, say, an orchestrator like this Beckenbauer, or a destroyer who might search and destroy way out of position, like a Gattuso who I have coming off the bench. You have to make sure you put defensive on those players. Not to mention, you can also add, I don't start with it, but you can add deep line on this player if you want him to drop back as more of a center back, which Beckenbauer absolutely can if I needed him to, which sometimes I do. The other defensive role I set with Maldini because I want him to say defensive. Now, he is a defensive wingback, and I have him stepped in as a center back, so this isn't the most important thing. I just have that extra space. It's simple as that. But if you had, say, an attacking wingback, and you already have an attacking wingback on the other side, you would definitely need to put defensive on someone like that. But since I have the open spot, I put it on Maldini just to be safe. Now, Zanetti, I want him as an attacking wingback, as his playstyle suggests. He provides the width on that right side, and he does a great job at recovering and getting back. And I've literally only had one game where I had to put Zanetti on defensive because the opponent was catching him up the field and constantly playing through balls immediately when he won it on Zanetti's side. But that was literally one game. So, as usual, it's a game-per-game thing. Check it out. But typically speaking, I let Zanetti do his thing and provide width on the right side, which is a key factor in this setup. It has the middle grounds covered, right, which is important in this meta, but unlike other meta tactics, you have width on both sides. Now, I already talked about a potential deep line for your CDM, which for me is Beckenbauer, right, or in eFootball terms, your DMF. However, you can also utilize one of these two offensive slots for a counter target, which if I was going to put a counter target on, it would be my striker, which again is Kohler for me, whoever it is for you. These types of decisions with individual instructions and even sometimes player selection should be decided on a game-by-game basis based on what opponent you're facing, what tactics they're using, things like that. Maybe how the game is going, you change things up. So don't have just something set in your mind. So for me, I just go for those two defensive individual instructions on Beckenbauer or my DMF and one of my wingbacks. Simple as that. Now, you can take a look at my in-game roles as I'm talking about how this system works in-game, which is utilizing the open players. It's literally that simple. In the other custom tactics, you mainly see quick counter, through ball, through ball, through ball. It's a pencil-thin formation right up the middle. All you're doing is relying on your overpowered defense to get the ball or run into a player and score a tackle back. And then, if you're not around goal, get the ball and then play a through ball. Or those setups where you play to the wing, spam cross. Play to the wing, spam cross. Every single time. In this 4-1-4-1 setup, you have triangles all over the pitch for beautiful, proper football build-up. And then, you're not stuck to just a narrow setup, only passes down the middle. You have your attacking wingback, which makes sure it's an attacking wingback, not a fullback finisher, because you don't want that attacking wingback coming into the middle. You want them running up and down the side, whichever side it is. For me, it's Zanetti on the right. It could be a attacking left back for you, but you want them running up and down whichever side they're on, providing the width. Now, on the other side, you have either a left mid or a right mid. For me, it's Roberto Carlos as a left mid. And on offense, because Roberto Carlos is a crossing specialist, he's getting up and down the left side, but defensively, he gets into that center and helps defend, right? So he almost, at times, is a second DMF, but that's not all. In the attack, he can also cut in as your whole player, Schneider, right? For me, whoever it is for you, it could also be a creative playmaker there. The only difference is Schneider as a whole player only makes those darting runs up, right? Forward in the attack. A creative playmaker will make those forward runs, but also will come back more. So I suggest whole player, you can use creative playmaker, but you already have your left mid or right mid, whoever it is, behind providing cover, right? So Carlos will provide cover defensively and get up and down that left side. Schneider will be able to receive the ball to feet or make those darting runs in past Kohler or connecting with Kohler. And then obviously in the center of it all, you have Hullet, which for me, he's a deep lying forward. This Hullet is, but I play him AMF, which means he's a no play style AMF. he is all over the pitch, sometimes helping defensively, but then he is a spark in the attack. Whether he's scoring goals or setting up chances, he's just all over the place and truly the best player in this game. All the hype is real. So even if you're a free-to-play player, if you have the ability to do so, I strongly suggest just this one time you spend money to get Hullet. It will be a huge change in your success on the field. That's how good of a player he is. I promise you that. So he's all over the place in the center. And then, of course, on the other side, the side of your attacking fullback, right, you have another attacking midfielder. In my case, it's Cruyff, who's also a deep-lying forward, but I play him as a no-play style AMF. And he's essentially doing the same thing as my whole player, making darting runs forward to connect with Kohler or run past Kohler to get the ball in on goal. He's also connecting with Zanetti 1-2s many times and connecting with the DMF and a lot of times Hullet, right, or whoever your AMF is. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that you don't have to go with these exact play styles. For instance, I have Kohler up top, who's a target man. Now, he works great because I don't just spam through balls, right? He's showing to, looking for the ball to his feet, and if I didn't want him to do that and I wanted him to make more runs forward, I would simply switch him to a shadow striker, which I had to actually add that position proficiency. But that way, he won't be locked into that target man role looking for just, passes to feet. It just depends, like I said earlier, game to game, what you need in that particular game. I also have poachers, advanced forwards, like Luis Suarez, an advanced forward. Bebeto's a poacher. Sometimes I put Cantona or even Cruyff up there as a deep-lying forward with the playstyle turned on. It all depends on how the game's going. But it's the same thing for your attacking midfielders, right? You could have Schneider, a whole player, or you could have, just as an example, Totti, who is a deep-lying forward as well, but playing AMF, he's a no-playstyle AMF. I also have Messi, right? He's a prolific winger. I move him in, I could play him AMF or even secondary striker, and he's just a no-play style AMF or secondary striker. And that's the same with Totti and Cruyff. If you move him a little forward as secondary striker, what does this become? A 4-1-3-2, just like my previous tactics. So you see it's related. But the 4-1-4-1 lends a bit more to proper, beautiful football with the 1-2s, a lot of up, back, and throughs. When you move one of these players as almost a second striker, you get a little bit more direct, right? It makes a difference. It's not a crazy difference, but it does make a difference. So you just have to go game to game and see what works best for you, as well as see what works best for the players you have available. Last example, Roberto Carlos. As a left midfielder, he is a cross specialist. You may not have a cross specialist. You may have a box-to-box, for instance, like Cafu's a box-to-box, but he would be great in this setup as a right midfielder. You may have more of an attacking player. You may have a left back that you use, almost like a 5-back, right? And it might change the 4-1-4-1 numbers, right? But it will play similarly. So it all depends on what you have, how you want to play. This setup, though, is truly OP. It is truly meta. You have everything. The wing play, centrally you're strong. You have a great defensive setup. And then in the attack, you have numbers to finish the ball off and score great goals. So get to grinding. Get to having some fun playing some eFootball. Let me know in the comment section how this goes for you. And I will see you on the next one. Peace!